Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Wherever you are joining us, thank you for joining our Breaking Through Conversations. Surviving 911, 9/11, Fatherhood and Finding Purpose with Robert Kumapley. Some moments divide our lives into before and after. A single phone call, a diagnosis, an ordinary Tuesday morning that becomes unforgettable. Sometimes life takes us down roads we never planned to travel. But what if those unexpected detours become the very paths that shape our purpose? Today's guest knows that journey well. His story includes surviving one of the darkest days in American history, navigating unexpected realities of fatherhood, and discovering a new purpose he never imagined. So, everyone, welcome to Breaking Through Conversations. Please let us know where you are joining us from. And if you are watching the replay, you can still tell us where you are watching it from. Hi, my name is Marian Amwa, author and coach at Breaking Through. And on this channel, we share stories, practical strategies, and meaningful conversations that help immigrant professionals and professionals grow, lead, and thrive in the American workplace. Today's conversation reminds us that while careers matter, it is often the experiences outside the workplace that shape the leaders we become inside. And I'm honored to welcome Robert Kumapley. And I'm sure the name may sound familiar because our last guest was Genevieve G-Force. And Robert will explain that. But Robert, as Robert, or as many people call you, Bob K, right?
Yes.
So much for
Yeah.
joining us today. This is a conversation. You are welcome to put in questions, chats, any aha moments, any lovely moments. But before we dive into our story, into our conversation, I would love our audience to get to know you a little bit better. So, in your own words, would you introduce yourself? Tell
Yes.
us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and what you are passionate about. And we like fun. So, just for fun, share one fun fact about yourself that most people probably don't know.
Okay. So yes, I'm Robert Kumapley. I grew up in Kumasi. I was born in 1962 to two wonderful parents, and I actually tell people I have two mothers, two beautiful women that raised me, which is very unique. You know, everything about God is the uniqueness, right? Where your pastor can actually be your father. I was one of those children. God bless. We have two mothers in my life. I was raised by Elizabeth Kumapley, and Faustina Kumapley is my mother who gave birth to me. I
Mm.
have eight kids on my father's side and seven other kids on my father's side and five other kids on my mother's side. So, and I happen to be the first for both. And these
So,
two,
13 siblings.
correct. And these two wonderful kids that I lead are actually a pleasure, and both families connect and interact very well. I grew up in Kumasi on KNUST campus, and I attended Mauli School, and then came back to KNUST, and then after that, worked for a while. Went to England for about 9 months. I was supposed to be there for 2 years. Somehow, I've always felt in the back of my mind that England was not the place for me. Nothing wrong with England. It's just that my vision was in a direction. So, despite having all the documentation, I moved back to Ghana and rerouted back to the US. And then after that, I came here and met my beautiful wife, Dr. Genevieve Kumapley. That's a different conversation.
Yes.
And she's like a very determined individual. She's like the force of hurricane. So her maiden name is Forson. I nicknamed her the G Force. Tried to get a nameplate in the state of Illinois for her car, and they said it wasn't available. But she's really part of the conversation that I will be sharing today. Most people know me as Bob K. Some don't even know my full name. Those that are very close that I went to school with, they know I'm Kumapley, but the K stands for Kumapley. So, one fun fact, I am a crazy fan of Accra Hearts of Oak. I
Oh,
don't
okay.
even watch European soccer, believe it or not. And I would rarely support any other team. I remember when I was growing up, my dad always, so when friends come to look for me on Sunday, he'll say, "Do you know where your friend is?" And they'll say no. He said, "Well, I don't think he's really your friend because if you know, you know he's at the Accra Sports Stadium." I rarely miss matches on the local league for Accra House of Folk. So and when my both parents were had passed, Hearts of Folk sent a whole representative from the National Council to actually come and mourn with me. So that's the one.
Wow. Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Great, 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 great. It's interesting that we're also in the World Cup season. Accra
Yes.
Hearts of Folk is a team in
Yes.
Ghana. It's a
Correct. Yes.
soccer team in Accra, Ghana. Okay, thank you. Thank you for sharing that fun fact. I'm not going to ask you who you are supporting in the World Cup. I'm not going to ask you. I know we are all friends. Okay.
Yes.
So let's dive into our conversation for today. And I'm going to call you Bob K.
Yes.
We are now
That's
family, we
okay.
are now friends. Thank you
Yes.
so much for doing this.
Yeah.
My first question to you is that if I had met Robert in his 20s, what kind of man would I have met? What
That's
dreams and aspirations did you have as you began building your life and your career?
so I graduated from KNUST after Manley School. And, of course, not many people have the blessing of being taught by their father, but my father was actually my professor, one of my professors.
Okay.
And so his expectations were big for all of us, all his kids. He also insisted that we be educated in Ghana first, and then you can go to any other country you want. And so for me, having a big vision was natural, and that is to be one of the top engineers across the world, practicing engineering across the world. Personally, in the US, which is why when I went to the UK, I came back to Ghana and also Ghana as well. So I actually started practicing engineering at the O level. Believe it or not, it is true. We will calculate the properties of soils, plot graphs at the O level. That's how my dad gave us pocket money. So that was an easy transition. I also one of part of that vision is to find a smart, beautiful wife and also have a family of 4 kids. I actually ended up with three. That's a different conversation. I also wanted to pursue an advanced degree to build onto the knowledge that I have and then, of course, explore the world and give back to people based on my personal life journey. There are other things that may be highlighted in this conversation or in the future. And so that pretty much was the highlight of what my dreams were.
Yeah. So engineering has always been in your bloodstream,
Yes. It's
and
actually in the DNA.
in the DNA.
Yes.
Okay. 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 And you are still in the engineering field.
Yes.
Yes.
And the
That's
interesting
good.
thing was this, when I was in Maulis, actually, for the sixth form, I got recruited by um, Presec for biology. My dad was
Presec, so yeah, just for our
Presec.
audience not from Ghana, Presec is the Presbyterian Secondary School, one of the high schools in Accra,
Correct.
Ghana. Mhm.
Actually, one of the best science high school. So I got admitted to practice to pursue biology because I wanted to be a doctor. My dad was out of the country at the time, so when he came back, he said, "That's not my vision for you. You're going to do engineering." And Presec said, "We will not allow you to do engineering because we picked you up for biology." So I had to reroute back to Mauli School, which allowed me to do math, but they didn't tell me that they didn't have an advanced level mathematics teacher. So I literally taught myself advanced level mathematics to get admitted to KNUST.
Okay, very good. And I heard you say giving back
Yes,
was part of your, so I would say DNA, because as a young child,
yes,
your aspirations and dreams, part of it was to give back.
yes.
And I'm sure somewhere along the line we'll talk about that. Okay, so let's talk about when things began to change, like life detours, right? You were on this path, great engineer
Yeah,
in your DNA. It started even way before you started your professional life.
yeah,
But there came a moment when life got interrupted, and everybody's life gets interrupted at one point or the other.
yeah,
Interrupted your plans in a way that you could have never imagined.
yeah,
Can you take us back to that ordinary Tuesday morning and tell us
yeah.
what happened?
So I started my career in Illinois, Champaign, Illinois, where I met my wife. And when my wife graduated, we moved to the East Coast. Um, and so I worked with a company called HNTB Corporation. And while I was there, the one of the vice presidents came and said, "Hey, there is this opportunity with the Port Authority of New York, New Jersey." That was around 1999, 2000, I believe. Um, so they said, "We can't find anybody to go, but we need somebody to be on site. Can you please, help us?" And that time the contracts were renewed every 3 months. So one of the keys to my success is always to say yes. So I said yes, not knowing what I was going to get into. So I was a consultant to the Port Authority of New York, New Jersey. If you've ever landed in JFK, LaGuardia, Newark Airport, if you've ever crossed the bridges of George Washington Bridge, over 100 million vehicles a year, you've ever crossed the Holland Tunnel, Lincoln Tunnel, all those assets are maintained and managed by the Port Authority of New York, New Jersey. So I was on the consultant on that site, and on that Tuesday, um,
Robert, before we get there, you said something that I need to stop you in your tracks, because this conversation is going on in several circles. You
okay,
said you always say yes. Can you
yes,
explain that so
I
that
when
we are
people
all clear?
when people ask me stuff, my first default is to say yes. So remember, I didn't know what I was going to meet being a consultant at the Port Authority,
Okay,
but
so let me just ask you, I want to, because we'll get to the meat of the story.
mhm,
What are the advantages of saying yes? Because a lot of us overthink it, and a lot of us, our initial reaction is that for some initial reactions, let me go think about it, sleep
yeah,
about it,
yeah.
sleep on it, all
Yeah.
those things.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. It's always been part of my life. As I shared with you when I had to leave the comfort of living with my mother to my father in Kumasi. I didn't know what that was, but I said yes. So maybe it's some kind of divine intervention, but I'm always naturally guided to say yes, even though I know there are unknowns. Even as young as I was, 7 years old, 6 years old, didn't know what living with my father will be like away from my mother. I said yes. And so it's always been part of me. And as I say this now, it's like even is it playing back for me to say, that's actually been the rest of my life. You know, the successes that I've built have come from always saying yes.
So would you add that to risk taking and being
Yeah.
open to opportunities? Maybe somebody needs to hear this,
Yeah,
right?
Genevieve,
Because
Genevieve will tell you. I don't know how she did this living with me all these years, but when it comes to risk taking, I am crazy. I do things that most people would shake. I do things without really knowing, but I know somehow that I'm being guided by the divine environment, if I can put it that way.
yeah, so a
Uh,
guided yes.
yeah.
Okay.
So even when I found my wife, I just got dressed. I woke up one morning, took shower, and then I heard a voice that said, "Hey, today you're going to dress as if you're going for an interview." So I dressed, and when I got to the office, everybody's like, "Why are you leaving the job? You just joined us." And then I went to the campus and I met this young lady, and I said, "Hey, you must be the one I've been waiting for all this while." She's like, "I don't even know you." I said, "That doesn't matter. You're going to be my wife," and she will share that with you later, you know. So that's just who
Okay.
I was.
Okay, if you are joining us, Robert is telling us his story, but we had to pause for him to explain why he says yes to
Yeah,
opportunities and a risk taker.
yeah.
Tell us, are you a risk taker? Are you one that will say yes quickly, or you are one that overthinks it and you miss
No,
opportunities? Just share with us, Robert.
I like to do new things. So so long as it's something new, and I get bored with routine, and I don't know if that is a good thing or a bad thing, but when there is something new, it excites me. So I don't normally drag it on. I like to walk the journey, mostly on faith. I don't want to religionize this, but I will say yes, and then whatever happens, we'll solve it.
That's fantastic. Okay. So New Jersey, New York Port Authority, you're telling
Yes,
us a story,
yes.
a real story.
Yes. So what happened, I was working there, and it got to a point my wife said, we just had my Nicholas, my son, which is my second born. The first one was Senna, uneventful, exciting. Senna would watch soccer with me in the basement. We should be shouting, Ajogu. She knew the players of House of Folk. I had to conscientize her. Then Nick came along, June 2001. And I was then a consultant on site to the Port Authority, helping the Port Authority solve their challenging infrastructure problems. So one day my wife woke up and said, you know, and they renew the contract every 3 months. Now they renew them every 1 to 2 years. So she said, with the new son, the travel to New York is not as a travel to, the main office of HNTB. So she said, I don't think you should renew the contract. The contract was
So
due.
right now, Robert, you are living in New Jersey
Correct. I'm
and you are
living in New
commuting to
Jersey.
New York.
Correct. But
Explain to people what the
yeah.
commute, sorry to interrupt, explain to people what the commute is like, how, and
So if
give a
I
context.
just commute to the office, it's about 45 minutes. If I commute to the World Trade Center, it's about an hour and change. And I have to buy ticket, I have to wait for the trains, blah, blah, blah. So she really wanted me to be able to spend more time at home rather than spend the time commuting back and forth. So she really didn't want me to renew the contract to stay on site. So I went into the negotiation room, and my nature is to make the conditions and the boundaries difficult so that the client will say, no, okay, we can't meet those conditions, just go away. Interesting that everything I laid on the table, they said yes to, including the fact that when I leave my home, I'm on the clock. They're going to pay for parking, they're going to pay for train ticket, all those things they don't do. But somehow they said yes to all the terms. So that was the 9/10. So they said yes, and I had to sign the contract. So when I came home, I had to tell her that I tried to make it difficult, and they said yes to everything. And so I signed the contract. So when we were leaving home on 9/11 Tuesday morning, she and I leave at the same time to go to work. So I was trying, no, again, kind of feeling a little guilty. So I was trying to give her a kiss. And she said, no, you don't listen to me. And so she walked away. I stood at the door for a while, and I was like, okay, let me go and kiss my son, who was just a few months old. So that time, Genevieve's mom was with us. So I went up. She said, Robert, if you kiss this boy now, he wakes up. Now I have to deal with the rest of it. Was very early in the morning. You're talking 5, 6 o'clock. And my son was beginning to recognize. So once he sees me, we play monkey games. He was obviously going to expect that of the mom. So she said, no, don't do that. Go and come. When you come back, then you can play with him. So I left the house, not being able to kiss goodbye to my wife, not being able to kiss goodbye to my newborn son. And I arrived at the 74th floor, and the plane hit. And when the plane hit, the building moved. Things fell off the tables and chairs. It was a big impact. That was the first building that was hit that had a radio pole on top of it. So services were restored. And so we all sat down, and then a voice said, "Leave now." So for no, first a gentleman came and said, "It's only a helicopter." So the voice said, "No, Robert, leave now. Don't take the elevator. Go and see the blades of the helicopter on the floor. Leave now." So I got up and I left. When I got to the lobby, some of the elevator doors open, and he said, "No, take the emergency escape." So that's what I did. So I
What floor
left
were you on? What floor?
74th floor. So I left the desk and went to the lobby, took the emergency stairs. And when we got to the 33rd floor, we had a big bang. Not knowing that was when the second building was hit. So everybody was quiet, things froze. And then we continued to go down while the fire and police and security folks were going up to rescue other people, especially people who were in wheelchairs that didn't have the advantage to walk, to get up and walk like I did. So I got into the lobby, and what I saw, I don't even want to get into that, but there were people so desperate they jumped from the higher floors and all that kind of thing. So the security agencies in the lobby kind of covered our faces not to look at those things. And once I got out, being that I was a structural engineer, I knew that there was something going to happen after. So I started walking away from the building. And at that point, the second building that was hit began to fall. And so put my back against a wall, a retaining wall. And there was a lot of wailing and sadness. People were confused. And and at this time, I haven't spoken to Genevieve. I had a cell phone. She actually got me a Sprint cell phone. I remember there was a phone company called Sprint. But with the event, the cell phones were not activated, were not working. So I couldn't speak to her. At work, she sees this on TV. They literally take her home because she just couldn't stand on her feet. And I think other friends who were locally available started coming to my home. And I guess they were literally all beginning to mourn. And because at that point, nobody heard from me, the building was done, had fallen. So the natural assumption was I was probably not there. So there was a lot of sadness and mourning. Now, I walked across the Brooklyn Bridge just to get away further from the site because I knew that what was going on was really not good. So I crossed the Brooklyn Bridge, and there was a development on the right-hand side. Once I crossed the Brooklyn Bridge, I saw that there was a payphone there, but nobody was going there because predominantly there was a black neighborhood. So I was like, who cares? Let me go down there. And I made a 1-800 collect phone from that phone. That's when they picked up the phone, and there was a lot of, crying. And I said, "No, I'm here. Genevieve, I'm here." And then the whole mood just changed. And there was so much relief. And at least she knew then that was around 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. This thing happened around 8, 9. So you can imagine the window of what she had gone through, not knowing whether I was still alive or not. And so I called a friend in Queens because they had shut down all the crossings. There was no way for me to get home. So at that point, just called my friend. He came down, picked me up. I spent the night with him. The next morning, when the bridges and tunnels were open, he took me home to see my family. And it was really refreshing to see that time my two kids, Senna, Nicholas, and of course my wife, who I don't even know how she slept. And so that's the journey in a nutshell.
Oh, and I know, I mean, in our conversation, you don't even want this to be the highlight of our conversation today.
Yeah.
But what what was going through your mind? I'm just even
Mm-hmm.
trying to
Mm-hmm.
imagine
Mm-hmm.
what was happening that day. It
Yeah.
was a Tuesday,
Yeah.
sleeping somewhere, thinking of your family, thinking of your colleagues. What was
Yeah.
going on in your mind? And
So the first and foremost that my son was just a couple of months, and even while before the 33rd floor, he was on my mind. I was like, man, what if I don't make it? What would his life be like? He was constantly on my mind. What what is Senna going to be? How, and it was just as we go now, and then when we got to the 33rd floor, there was the big bang, and at that point you're like, oh, is this it? Because we really don't know what was going on. We knew it was something bad, but as you're in the exits, you don't really know. And then of course you're like, so what happens to Genevieve? What is her life going to be like? And is she going to how is she going to handle these two kids? That time Nick was not diagnosed, so I was just thinking about raising two kids as a single mom, and even we all know in the US that is very challenging to raise children. So
mm,
I was just kind of thinking through those, like what might not be in there can look like. Those are
yeah,
some of the thoughts
yeah.
that came to mind.
And how did that experience change you, how you view life, family, work, and what truly matters? So you talk about
Mhm.
you couldn't kiss your wife, you couldn't kiss
Mhm.
your son,
Mhm.
and that could have been the end, right?
Yes.
So how, just thinking back, how has that changed you?
So a couple of things. I was actually, while I was in the exit, I was thinking, hey, I never even kissed my wife goodbye. I never even kissed Nick goodbye, right? So, and after everything else, I'm like, maybe if I had kissed them goodbye, maybe that would have been the end. So, whatever it is, whether it's by divine intervention, I still play at the back of my mind that was it God that was just intervening to say, don't say goodbye, not quite yet, because he said God knows the end from the beginning. He knew exactly what was going to happen. And so that thought came to mind that, hey, everything that happens for a reason. It was definitely refreshing to see the family. Um,
Yes.
it was definitely, brought questions to what will life be like for Senna and Nicholas? What kind of load would Dr. G be facing? She's a young lady, and you just lost your husband, you have two kids, so it definitely reshaped my life. And a couple of things, takeaways was that maybe if I had listened to her and just told the port authority that I was not going to renew the contract, maybe I would not even have been in the event. But God knows why everything went the way it is. And also, sometimes life will promise you things. Remember, they gave me everything. But after 9/11, if I had died, all those things will be irrelevant. So it taught me to listen more to the helper that God gave me, and also to prioritize God, family. Work will always be work, right? Definitely appreciate life and enjoy life, because if I had gone, all the vision about the great things that I shared with you, none of that would matter. I'll probably have been, rotting in the grave somewhere by now,
Yeah.
despite all those big vision and great expectations of life, right? So, it's important to take all this easy. But I think for me, maturing from that event was the voice that said, get up and leave.
Mm, mm, mm.
Go and see the blades on the floor. Otherwise, I lost colleagues who remain at their desk because the internet came back on, the light came back on. They are not here with us today. So since then, there have been other events where I hear that voice, and it's the same voice that I heard in that 9/11,
Mhm.
and it
Mhm.
it guides me to this day. So
Mhm.
as sad as this event was, if there was one big takeaway, was that I now knew what the voice was. The Bible says, "My sheep know my voice." That means there's more than one voice.
Mhm. Mhm.
So being able to differentiate the voices, I think that was the biggest gift out of all this, if I can say this. I also want to say that I don't normally share this story. This is the second time I'm doing this.
Mhm.
And so because this is not about getting glory. This is for me, it's like this is a serious life thing, right?
Yeah.
But if there is a way that I got calls from Joy FM and all that, I just didn't wasn't motivated to do those things and become a local star. That's not what this was for me. But I want to share that being able to develop that relationship with God and being able to hear that voice that guides you. Because we don't know what tomorrow is. He is alone that knows tomorrow from the end from the beginning. So being able to hear that voice was very big for me.
Yeah, hearing that voice, the voice that guided you. Thank you so much. Honestly, breaking through family. We might want to give Robert a thank you, say thank you in the chat for doing this conversation. Thank you for having this conversation with us and sharing that part of your life. So many people spend a lifetime trying to recover from one life changing event. But for you, that wasn't the end of the story. I know you began hitting at what happened, but another unexpected detour was waiting, one that would transform not only you, your family, but also the man that you have become. Do you want to share with us
Yeah.
for many people surviving 9/11 was the greatest detour of your life, but it
Yeah.
wasn't. Can
Yeah.
you tell us about what happened, what the unexpected chapter was, your
Yeah.
journey as a father,
Yeah.
and you are the rest of the story?
Sure. So if earlier on I had shared that one of my dreams was to have four kids.
Mm.
And at the time of 9/11, I had two. So we were blessed with a third. So we have Senna, Nicholas, and Delali, and I love these kids. Um, you know, but I had my son Nick, being the boy, he's going to carry my name. So if you will see that Senna and Delali are girls, Nick is a boy. There was some logic to the madness. I didn't want Senna to marry a Smith, and she's called Mary Smith. So she'll become Mary Senna Smith. And Delali, being a girl, if she ever gets married, she'll become, you know, Delali, whatever, irrespective of wherever that person can. But for Nick, I maintain Nick, one, because I named him after my dad, and he will keep the name Kumapley. So there was always some logic in the craziness of things that I do. But I had a lot of dreams for my son. We're going to play soccer. We'll have fun as father and son. And when I go through the door and he sees me, he runs. Even when he was crawling, he would crawl to the door. And it was exciting to see him. We met his developmental milestones. And then after around 12 to 15 months, we started seeing some kind of regression. That happened after he took some vaccine. Now, I want to make it clear, I am not anti-vaccine. I'm just sharing the experience that we had and how we could tie it back. So today, of course, we had Delali after that. She took vaccines, but we gave her those vaccines in a more educated, informed way. So Nick had some cold. He had a runny nose. I took him for his routine checkup, and I told the doctor brought a needle. I was like, this guy, I don't think he's feeling well. So he actually minuted it on his chart to say, Dad, concern but something, I'm also saying this because we actually even tried to file a federal suit, and we were advised by the lawyer that we better take the money and help our son because it would be impossible to win that case because there's a law against vaccine injury. But anyway, Nick regressed and he used to say, Mommy, Daddy, he's lost speech. And it was very traumatic for us. We didn't know what autism was. And, we started asking, but why Nick though? Senna didn't go through any of this. Why Nick? It took us a while to figure out and tie it back to the fact that, what really led to this, the guy wasn't actually feeling well. So for those of you that are that went through like Senna did, that's fine. But those that are going to have children, please make sure that your children's immune system is online on point before you give those vaccines, right? Because for 2 weeks, Nick couldn't sleep. His temperature was going up and down. My wife and I were in the emergency room, you know, and I can't even tell you what was going through Genevieve's mind. She's the one that carried him for 9 months. And I'm sure that is a different level. So every time I'm kind of in pain, getting upset, God is like, there is somebody else that carried him for 9 months. Just shut up. So anyway, so we began to experience lost dreams, and I was blaming myself. What did I not do right? The marriage struggled in many ways because Nick became the focus, and it was like, what did we not do right? Snapping at each other. It was very painful as parents. At a point, and I was angry with God, but later, through the pesky voice, I calmed down. And with God, we could see light and hope even in the darkness that we were in. So it was a very challenging period. At that time, I was beginning to travel to do projects across the world. Like I said, I was due to go to Tanzania to work with a company called Koei to design some roadway pavements and all that. And I had to stop all that because I just couldn't see Genevieve handle this alone. And so we had to relook at the vision, you know, and say that, hey, we've just been given a detour. So now how do we together figure this out? And that's where
So,
we,
mhm. Wow. At what age was Nick diagnosed with
I think,
autism, right? That's what he was
yeah,
diagnosed with,
yeah.
yeah.
So I'm the kind of person I don't when something is really upsetting me, I don't want to remember the time. But I think it was around 18 months.
Oh, wow.
Yes, yes. He was a very lively kid and still is. Every time he saw people, he heard the doorbell, he would just fly down the steps. He was, and everybody that walked through the door, he was excited. And we started seeing him withdraw, where he will not react to those things anymore. That was around 18 months. And we saw that he was not the Nick that we knew. He crawled very early. His developmental milestones were amazing, until all this regression, came about.
Uh, Thank you for sharing the story. We're going to go deeper. And if you were not here when Bob's wife, Genevieve Kumapley, is on our YouTube channel because she also shares the story from her perspective
Yeah.
as a mother and also someone as a pharmacist.
Yeah.
So you want to listen to the story to piece it
Yeah.
together to get the full story. So
I
thank
want to
you.
say that
Mhm.
Genevieve is very detailed. So if I get the time, if there is a conflict in the timeline, please respect her timeline because, like I said earlier on, I try to disconnect from things that have negatively impacted for me. And so I will have an approximate timeline, but she's always on point with her timeline. So if
Yeah.
she said 20 months and I said 18, please take a 20. If she
Yes.
said 15 months, please take that. I'm just giving you, in my general broad knowledge
Yeah.
because that's how I deal with my issues.
Yeah. And one day I think I'll bring the two of you together to tell tell us the
Mm,
story. But every father hopes to protect, guide, and prepare their child for the future. I mean, just you telling the story is just your journey looked different. How has raising your son Nick changed the way you understand fatherhood?
mm.
And I'm underscoring fatherhood because, well, let me just put it out there. This conversation should have happened around Father's Day because we wanted to
Yeah.
highlight fathers who are playing an active role in raising kids. We tend to hear stories about mothers, but we know that there are fathers out there who are doing amazing jobs. And so, to any father on this platform or going to listen after, thank you for what you do. Now to you, Bob. How has raising your son Nick changed the way you understand fatherhood? How has it shaped you as a husband, a leader, and as a man? And looking back, I know your son is about 25.
Five. Yes.
Yeah, what have been some of the greatest challenges and some of the your greatest joys as well?
Mm. So my greatest joy, first of all, I also say that I have to say that fatherhood in the real sense is special. And when you look back at the Bible, um, God is referred to as our Father, God the Father. So it's special. To be a father is actually a blessing. But God, in His wisdom, knew that a father needs a helper.
Mm, mm,
So when uh, Adam named all the animals, did all the work, he now told him that you need a helper. Put him to sleep, perform surgery, and gave him Eve, according to the Bible. So it had to take this event for me to appreciate the presence of Genevieve in my life as a helper. Until then, I barely listened to her. It was my way or the highway. So, being a father, what Nick taught me was to be able to hold the family together even in the storm, right?
mm,
And as a husband, a leader, a brother, a man, to be able to let things operate, live life, right? And that also is not just father to your children, even while all this were going on, we used to hold STEM sessions for kids who were in neighborhoods that would have never been exposed to STEM. And I had a gift of, holding these STEM sessions. So for me, fatherhood meant a different thing to me, particularly as I couldn't get Nick to do all those STEM experiments. I found it helping other kids in the
mm,
poor neighborhoods of Roselle and Newark, right? Nick, handling Nick and working with me made me recalibrate and realize that it's about love, patience, and tolerance.
mm,
In order for us to be able to work with Nick, otherwise, you just end up, oh, I collaborate until, he's very hard headed. You have to look at it for the situation that he's in. If he could speak for himself, he lost speech, and there were all kinds of other health issues that were going on at the same time, which was not uncommon to most kids that befell the autism spectrum. And most importantly, to mentor other kids from how I grew up and from what he was going through. So when I was growing up, I was a late starter. If there are 33 kids, I was probably number 30 in the ranking in the classroom. Everybody thought I was the dumbest kid, but not so anymore. I've been featured in American Society of Civil Engineers magazine and National Magazine, Engineering News Record. So I felt like there were times that children were misunderstood just like I was. I did not understand why I should just sit there and say 2 times 2, 4, 2 times 3, 6. I was like, why am I doing that? And that caused a delay in the way that I accepted the teaching. So I had to teach myself to come back and recalibrate, right? But I feel like in the system that we grew up, which is probably most likely what is still going on in Ghana, is if you don't revegetate what has been given to you, you are considered a dumb kid, right? So being from that angle, it also made me reach out more. That's why I said I've always been about mentoring and doing things. Also, it taught me to know and understand the people that you connect with or lead, right? That everybody is special in their own way. Like Nick, there was nothing that Nick cannot take apart, by the way.
Oh,
We
wow.
we got him a very special clothing. And the company said, we've never had a kid take apart this clothing. No kid. I said, you haven't met my Nick yet. Within 1 week, Nick took apart those clothes and we had to send them the photos of what he had done. So he's a very deep, smart kid in his own way. And so we had to realize that he was just special in his own way. He may not be speaking, so we had to find ways that we can. So, what has really helped me is when in doubt, for me, it has been the Bible. The Bible has been the best book for fatherhood, right? And there God tells us how he fathers his children, right? And that book is written by three renowned authors, God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. It's a best-selling book. I don't think there's any other book on it. So anytime I'm in question as to what a father is, including don't spare the, the rod. I don't beat my children, but it means that if you need to rebuke them for whatever they're doing, you know, it also taught me that challenges are not for us to go back and be depressed. It's challenges refine and prepare us. Uh, and also that I should focus on the marriage, that two is always better than one. They said, well, two, one can kill 1,000, two, 10,000. So there is some exponential power in the two. So that made me also keep focus and continue to love my wife. And also that, hey, if tomorrow Nick begins to speak, that's where the testimony is. So there is no testimony without challenge and pain. And don't be angry with God. Like I said earlier, I was very transparent. I was very angry with God. Um, and I don't feel so anymore because all the things and experiences that have come out of this, I'm not saying that I would always want this, but you should always embrace what it is and go back to God. He said without him, it is impossible to be a father. It's impossible to do things, right? So wherever you are in doubt, just go back and speak to him and ask him for direction.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So once, in our preparation, you shared with me about
Mm.
working with a leader whom
Yes,
many people found difficult,
yes,
yet you saw something. I've made a point in my notes that
mm,
everyone is special in their
yes,
own way,
yes,
right? And
yes.
try to understand people. So tell us that story and how did your journey as a father influence the way you
Yeah,
understand people and the way you lead people?
yeah. So with all this, I started to ask myself, what does Nicola's future look like? Even if he recovered, how will people see him? And so there was a position that was advertised in my journey at the Port Authority, and they were looking for somebody to support one of the leaders. So I took the position, I went for the interview, and I observed a few things about the guy who was interviewed. He doesn't make eye contact. He's very straight. He's like, I didn't ask you that question. Can you answer the question, right? But in our journey with this autism, we realized that autism is a spectrum. So knowing that while I was attending that interview, I just saw Nicholas's face in that guy's face. And I realized that what he was doing was not per se himself. It's just by where he is on the spectrum. So if you have zero as perfect and 10 as a full spectrum. Maybe he's in the early stages of the spectrum or in the middle. So I was very patient and I got a job. And when I took the job, my colleagues will ask me, "Hey, dude, are you okay? Nobody works with this guy for more than 3 months." So the one actually came and put his hand on my forehead, and then we went 6 months, we went 9 months. I was with this guy for 5 years.
Wow.
And when he was leaving, he told me I was one of his best employees
Mm,
that
mm,
he's ever worked with in the agency.
mm.
And along the line, I actually told him the story about Nick. And he told me he had also had a son on the spectrum, you know, but he was more functional. So, we used to talk, we used to go for lunch. And when I come back, my colleagues are like, "Oh, you went to lunch with this guy?" You know, but I it made me more. I didn't realize that this was actually preparing me
Mm,
for the next stage when I get into leadership position. It made me more empathetic. That guy was very smart. One of the things that I gained from interacting with this guy, he always solved problems from the root cause, which I did not have until I interacted with this guy. So when something breaks, what broke it? How can we do it so that it never breaks again? He was very detailed in that manner.
mm,
And
mm,
so that was one of the key takeaways that actually helped me in my current position where, solve problems, make it go away, make it never come back. So
yeah.
that learning that root cause problem solving, I don't think I would have picked it up without interacting with him. Because he always asks you, how do we make this go away, Robert? And I will go back and I will come back. So also being empathetic and developing additional patience, because obviously you can see my colleagues and their comments that they were making was such that if you're somebody that just hear people are like, why am I even here dealing with this? So and also of course being a servant leader and understanding people, having that patience, all this came from how I was handling Nick as a
Mm.
son.
Wow. You know what? You said so much. You said solve problems, make it go away. Is
Yeah.
that right?
Yes.
Never make it never come back.
Yes. That's correct. And that's the root cause, just so that you know. Sometimes we get caught. I am an engineer, I'm an electrical engineer, I'm a civil engineer, I am a hospital, whatever. When people hire you not because of your profession, they hire you to help them solve problems and to make them solve those problems that they never come back. That's why I learned that.
Mm. That's powerful. That's powerful. If you're a professional, immigrant professional listening to us, solve problems, make it go away, make it never come back. I love that. But, so Nick has taught you a lot, being
Mhm.
empathetic, even understanding autism itself that is on a spectrum, knowing how to deal with other people. Thank you. Thank you, Nick. If you're enjoying today's conversation, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who would be encouraged by Robert's story or Bob K's story. If you are joining us live, let us know where you're watching from. So thank you. Canada is in the house. There's somebody also from New York. I know Frederick is here. Please use the chat if you have any question for Robert. And Robert we are having if you're just joining us, we have a conversation with Robert. There's a breaking through conversation with Robert. He shared a little bit about his 9/11 story. He shared about his son, Nicholas, being on the diagnosed with autism, being on the spectrum, and how raising Nick has changed him and changed his family for the better. Okay, so what people don't see, people often just see the front store, as they say. They often see the executive, they see the leader, they see the success, right? But they don't always see what happens behind the scenes. What were you What were you and your wife carrying during those years that most people never saw? This is a little bit personal.
Mhm. Wow, lots of pain.
Mm,
Um, I would say that one of my favorite verses is when God said, "This is my son, my only begotten son, in whom I am well pleased." So there is a certain relationship with a father and a son, right? So that pain of of the situation that Nick is in was, for me, was very traumatic. Um, Lots of concern. What is the future for Nick? Can he live by himself? We're not going to be on this earth forever. Genevieve and I are going to move on at some point, like everyone else. So who is going to care for Nick? Nobody can love Nick like the way we do, you know. And leaving him behind was a lot of sleepless nights. What future does he have? He's not able to work. He's very minimally functional. He's not going to be able to work, come back, and then also, what does that mean for his sisters? What is the impact on Senna and Delali? Especially, he's very close with Senna, and Senna, it's sometimes we have to have conversation with them that Senna, this is not your load to carry, at least while we're here. And she loves her brother so deeply. So, what does the future look like, even for me or Genevieve, when one of us is not there? And you are now much older, and then you have to deal with the situation that even the two of us are struggling to deal with. So those were all a lot of major, uh, you know, major stress, major pain, major things that we had to think about, right? And for me, I don't want to talk for Genevieve. It felt like I'm walking on a landmine where the next step you take, you step on a mine and that's it, right? And because with the medical bills and everything, you're just one paycheck away for some catastrophic something, you know. And also, he has siblings, Sana and Delali. It kind of takes away. We're so focused on him. But fortunately for us, these two ladies have actually freed us to, we didn't even realize like how much time we were spending with Nick that was taken away from them. But somehow these two beautiful ladies helped us to kind of focus on the brother without complaining. It's always Nick. It's always now. There was not a single time that happened. And one day, Genevieve was interviewing Delali, and both Delali and Senna spoke, and Delali said, I he said, I never saw Nick any other way. I was just born into autism
Mm,
because Senna had seen him before he regressed, right?
mm,
But it was good that she was actually able to express that.
yeah.
And so it was a lot of pain and a lot of worrying about the future. But like I said, once you're walking with God, He can put things in perspective.
Okay.
And the fact that he will not be able to go to elementary school, high school, he takes the small bus, and so he's not going to go to college. Those are all things that, and that's for another conversation.
Yeah, yeah. I know in our conversation with Genevieve, she talked a lot about community support, family
Hmm.
support
Hmm.
that is needed. I have one question,
Hmm.
and then maybe you can put the two questions, to speak to someone who is dealing with an autistic child
Hmm.
or autistic relative, and
Hmm.
we all know there are lots of misconceptions out there. I'm sure
Hmm.
you have learned a lot. Let's speak to that person for a minute, and I'll go to my
Yeah.
next question and encourage that person on this
Yeah.
journey.
I think that God has a way. So I myself went through that a little bit and I'll share that. So one day I dropped Nick off at the bus stop. And as the bus was leaving, I was like, man, what does the future look like? He's not going to go to high school. He's not going to go to college. And right there, I heard that pesky voice. He says, "But do you know Bill Gates?" I said, "Yes." He said, "What college did he go?" He said, "Do you know Steve Jobs? What college did he go?" He said, "How many of those people that went through that line have been able to transform the world like the ones those that do?" He said, "Why are you worrying yourself? Everyone has a special skill. And some of these kids, they have photographic memory. We saw one kid in Illinois, took a walk around the neighborhood and came and drew that neighborhood to perfection. I mean, there are kids that play piano there. So you just need to really discover, what what the gift the child has had brought to this world. So I read a story about Bill Gates. When he decided college is not for me, the father didn't sit there and say, this is from the devil. He went and cleaned
Mm,
up the garage and said, this is the place for you.
mhm,
Discover yourself. You and I are talking on this Zoom today
mhm,
because somebody like Bill Gates came up with a platform
mhm,
that supported all this to happen, right? And whether you believe he's on the spectrum or not, whether you believe Jobs is on the spectrum or not, Steve Spielberg, whatever it is, these are great people that through whatever it is experiences in their life have transformed the world in ways that any other way may not have been possible. So please create a platform to support. Now it's a spectrum, like I said. Some people are very high functioning. I myself, some of my relatives have told me they believe that I'm on the spectrum because ever so often I will rub my eyes, I will rub my face. We have all these things that we do, right? So whatever it is, um, I think you should go to the father also, but also be intentional to support the child, not to say, oh, yeah, so, but all this kind of nonsense that people get caught up in, which Genevieve did an awareness many years ago, to let people know you can actually gain from these kids and be able to probably transform the world. Maybe one of them may find a cure to cancer. Who knows?
who knows? Thank you. So your son is now an adult and lives in a group home. The transition can be one of the most emotional seasons in a parent's life where he's no longer in your house.
Mm,
What has this chapter taught you about love, trust, hope,
mm.
and letting go?
So first, I think first and foremost, the separation is not easy. No one can parent Nick like us, especially when he has special needs, things that he cannot do for himself. But there is a positive side to this where we're not going to be here forever. So we have to prepare him for the future. So for me, when I went back, and I don't want to religionize things, my wife always says, why do you keep saying that? Is that I just go and ask God and say, hey, how can you help me rationalize this? And he said to me, the same pesky voice which saved me in the 9/11 came and said, what if Nick had graduated and is living in California away from you?
Mm,
What if he has a family and they are living in California? Right? At least he is here. And so it's no different from him being in that group home and then living and experiencing his whole life. So when he started going to the group home, when we go there, he wanted to come back. But now when we go there, he just hold us, push us to go, and then the sister he pulls her back to himself, right? So it's like you guys can go, but Senna can stay, right?
mm,
So you can see that is going to be how we can now be at peace that if we ever have to leave this earth, we know that his life for the remainder on this earth is actually going to be fulfilling. Like I said, I can only speak for myself. I don't know how Genevieve, who carried him for 9 months, feels and continues to feel about this, but this is how I rationalize this. So the father versus the mother pain may be different,
Yeah.
but again, the two of you need to be there and
Yeah.
be an anchor, encouraging one another, right? And
Yeah.
also realize that this has to happen because of the sisters so that they can also have a fulfilling
Yeah.
family life going into the future.
Yeah. Thank you. There are a few questions. I want to look at the chat if you see me looking here. It said, well, greetings from Canada, New York, Brooklyn, New York. Thank you for sharing your story. Amazing story. Hello, RK. Kudos. Listening from British Columbia. I'm sure you know who that is. And there's one question here that says, how did you maintain a close relationship with Nick's siblings during this difficult time?
Mm. So one of the things we did is we went to vacation together. So for example, Nick couldn't fly. Um, so we didn't even dare to try. So we drove, we've been to Florida, I think Orlando twice, Miami, is it Miami or is it Orlando? We've been to Barrie, Ontario. So we just got a very strong vehicle. We've been to Maine. We always take family trips together. And Nick always enjoyed those trips. He loved to have long rides. So, and in that whole setting, it just kept the conversation and the connection going. Nick is literally inseparable from Senna and Delali, more Senna than Delali. I think he considers Delali as a baby. So if you tell him, Nick, give Senna a kiss, then he goes to give her a kiss on the forehead. He said, give Delali a kiss. Then she pushes Delali's head a little bit, which is what any neurotypical kid would do, especially when you have the big sister, younger sister relationship. So we've always had those trips together, not treating him like, oh, this one cannot handle this. Whatever it is, we all just went through it together and spent a lot of time together. And when you do that, it always brings the family together.
So, do you do anything special with the girls alone?
Yes. So, especially we've been to Ghana with the girls. I've personally traveled with Senna separately, spending just father and daughter, and
Okay.
Delalis is coming up. She keeps reminding me of that. So Genevieve does the same thing. We go to other trips. Whether it's a cruise, whatever it is. Since he got to the group home, we are able to also spend that, making sure that they don't feel like it's just about Nick. So they are not upset. They have also been very cooperative and understanding that, and that we needed to give Nick that attention. And whether it's like any other kid having a 16th birthday party, whatever, they were not lost on that either. We made sure that we also showed our appreciation of their support to make those things happen.
Thank you, Bob K. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your life's detours. So today, your advocacy extends far beyond your own family. You've talked about supporting children in STEM, science, technology, um, science, technology, engineering, and maths. Yeah, you've transformed your home in Ghana into a school supporting children with autism and their families. Tell us a little bit about this passion, this purpose, and this mission,
Yeah.
if I can call
So
that.
thank you. First, I want to say that the bigger vision came from Genevieve, and I connected into that vision because of my own growing up, where I told you I struggled to understand the traditional learning, right? So there was a time we were supposed to, I had a vision of moving to Ghana to to engage in farming. One of the things is that when I used to struggle as a son, my dad actually bought land in Ho in the Volta region because he was getting to the point, he's like, I need to put something together for this guy. So in his mind, maybe farming was going to be that after Maoli school and all that. But as God will have it, I became an engineer and also had passion for farming. So God has an interesting way to look at things. Anyway, so there was a project we were pursuing, and Genevieve has always been supportive. So she said, well, we can go to Ghana, but what does that look like for Nick? So she started going down, looking at what was going on with the school system, with the support system, and what she saw was not encouraging. So she now came and said, hey, I want to create an environment to support these families as if Nick was in those environments. So if we ever need to move Nick, it will be an easy transition. So at that time, um, we were pursuing a building project in Community 18, and
In Ghana,
yes, in
Community 18
Ghana.
Tema.
And I don't know what came over me because I'm a very practical person, but I built the stadium. It was wide like I built the bedroom. It was wide like a stadium. It was a master suite. Everything was there. Not knowing it became the perfect fit for classrooms for these kids. So anyway, when the building was completed, she said, is it okay if we use it to set up the school? And I thought about it. I'm like, family is like, well, when you build a house, you don't build a house, you come to Ghana, you are in Airbnb, right? So, but, through her inspiration and her passion, she will go on the radio stations, do outreach. So we set that up. And the school has about 40 kids now, 30 to 40 kids. I don't
An
know what the
autism
thing.
school,
Yeah.
special school for special
Yes.
kids.
Now it's also beyond autism. They also have other special needs kids that have. It's not just limited to autism now.
Okay.
So they have about 40 kids in that school. Of course, when parents are in this situation, they don't have money to pay the full fees. So that was funded through her non-profit here and also through our own resources. And, you know, and it's been a blessing to others. Now, somewhere along the line, the vision changed that we can actually have a system where you bring neurotypical kids who are going to be the future leaders to interact with these special needs kids through a STEM program. So a STEM program was created that brings the children that are neurotypical working with the special needs kids embedded. And if you think about it, that was actually very innovative because if you want to change the future, this is now to do that. So that these further kids, when they become very smart, they become leaders, they already realize that, oh, these are children that we need to focus on. So that has been going on for many years now. And also bringing kids that would have never been exposed to STEM. I mean, I think there's Lashibi school over there, and I know there was one of the STEM programs. A girl came and she was outside looking in. So I called her. I said, "Why are you there?" He said, "My mom has asked me to go and sell kebab." And I said, so this is like this wele kebab, the whole thing she was carrying was 20 cedis if she's done selling it. But she saw, so I invited her in and I said, how much is this whole thing? She said it's 20 cedis. So I gave her the 20 cedis and said they should share it to the rest of the. That's because the voice told me again. He said, Robert, can you imagine the children that this woman is carrying, this girl is carrying in her womb? That could transform Ghana. But because of the circumstances, she's standing outside looking at her peers. So when she came, the group that she was added to, one of the guys said, "Oh, you shouldn't be talking. You just came. You are selling kebab, right?" So I watched the thing, and connecting with a voice that said, and they said, "Do you know why she's saying what she's saying?" The guy said, no. I said, do you understand what she's saying? The guy said, no. I told the girl to tell him. He said, no, if you don't put it that way, the thing will fall. So I said, can you do what you were intending? And the thing fell. Then she now said, can you do what she's asking you to do? And the thing stood, right? So the whole experiment stood. That group went on to win that particular experiment. That taught me a lot. In our culture, in our system, this is how we treat people and we lose opportunities to actually become a great nation. So this for me has been very fulfilling, has been very rewarding, way above, whatever it is. I think this is, I feel fulfilled because that's part of my passion. But to see that, to hear that voice and see that in a real practical way was very touching for me.
Wow. Well, if you are here listening to Robert and you're enjoying this conversation, just put something in the chat. There was a question. Well, let's go. It said, um, hi, big cousin. This Cindy Quist. Then there is, what's the name of your school in Ghana? And
Yes,
it's been put Haven
Haven.
International.
Yes, that is correct.
Haven
That is correct.
International.
Yes,
Okay. So Haven is International is a school that Robert Kumapley and his wife, Dr. Genevieve Kumapley, in addition to others, are
yes, yes.
helping kids in Ghana,
Yeah. I
especially
want to
in,
acknowledge Jennifer Dodo also, who has been working this journey with us locally in Ghana. And so just want to let people know that this has not been that we are sitting in America, but also people who have sacrificed, a whole lot of people who have also sacrificed to make this happen.
yeah. Then there's another comment, such an inspiring journey, Robert. I'm happy I saw your post and can listen in. This is LCM. Then there's another comment, RK, how do I get in touch? How
Yeah.
do they get in touch?
All right.
This is Charles Roxon.
Okay.
Uh,
So robert.kumaplay@gmail.com.
Robert.kumaplay@gmail.com.
Yeah,
You can
Kumaplay is Kumapley.
Okay. So we are just about to land the plane. If you're enjoying this conversation, please you can forward it to a friend who needs to hear this. And if you are not subscribed, please subscribe so we can bring you more interesting and inspiring conversations that would inspire us and cause us also to act and be a blessing, an inspiration to someone else. So, and for those of you who are already subscribed and part of this Breaking Through conversation, Breaking Through family, thank you. My last question, I think I have one bonus question. When you look back now, the young man who left Ghana with great aspirations and dreams, the engineer who survived 9/11, the father whose life has forever been changed and is still changing, I must say, the advocate you've become. What do you believe all of those detours were preparing you for?
Hmm. I think they were preparing me for the calling that God has on my life, because
Hmm.
I still question why did I survive when others passed away? And I feel that the calling that he has um, is a big stage,
Hmm.
and it requires certain characteristics and skills, right? Um, so some of these detours, as much as they are painful, they're actually testimonies. Like I said, imagine when we go to church, we ask for testimonies. We are not asking for people who had everything perfect during the week, isn't it?
That's right.
It's because somebody went through some challenge
That's right.
and they are sharing that testimony as a testament to God's goodness. So, as much as these were painful, and I would say from my flesh that I don't want to go through them, but I really wanted to go through them because you are talking to me because I survived 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
If I was never there, you and I would never have this
Mm-hmm.
conversation,
Mm-hmm.
right? So resiliency, God knows I need that. Teaching people how to solve problems, practical problems, innovation, leading people, from a servant leadership point of view, and also realizing that the vision that God has given you is not, you are not the end. So when God took Abraham out and said, look at the stars in the sky, I always crack a joke that as a guy, I was like, man, that means I'm going to have a whole lot of ladies. I'm going to have children. Abraham never lived to see the end of that vision. So when God gives you vision, you should understand that you need through leadership to create handover because you are not the end. And
Mm,
also that you cannot limit that vision to yourself, right? If you limit it to yourself, then the scope is very tight. Most visions are very large, but we are the reasons why they don't become large because we're like, oh, I don't have the money to do that. It's not about you. There are other people who may step in. Somebody on this call may step in and say, that school, I want to sponsor STEM. That school, I want to add to give you money to increase it to 100. It's not because I feel like I can afford it. Then I'm limiting God using other people through their calling to achieve the bigger goal. I don't think Abraham himself could have had children that will number the stars in the sky.
mm,
So when God gives you vision and calls you, it's not just about you. It's about the big picture and your willingness to bring other people in. That is when the real thing is going to be fulfilled. So looking back, I would say that um, you know, it has prepared me to learn how to collaborate with people,
mm,
to
mm.
get people to buy in into vision. And it's been a whole lot, a lot that we didn't touch on here.
Yeah. Yeah, this conversation is just, oh my goodness. You are not the end. Don't limit the vision to yourself. This
Correct.
is this is such a powerful quotation. It isn't about you. See
Yeah.
the big picture. Robert, I have to read a few of the comments. Many greetings from Chicago. Greetings, big brother Robert. That's Avril Linda. Thanks for sharing. Many lessons in your journey. Thank you for sharing. Rob K, my brother. This
Mhm.
Kwabla.
Yeah.
Listening to you has been great. I love your faith and resilience. I'm indeed very proud of you. I will definitely link up. Tariado Ashon. Wow, really inspiring, Bob K. Thanks for sharing. Remembering you as a classmate in tech. Look
Yes.
how far God has brought you. And a great story. Thank you for learning points. Pure resilience. Well done. And the emojis are flying with the love, love. Thank you. Thank you. We are so privileged to have had Robert with us, Bob K with us today. This story about 9/11 in particular, this is the second time he's sharing it. So thank you so much. And thank you for sharing the story about Genevieve,
Yes.
G-Force, my friend.
Yes.
Genevieve, your wife, Nicholas, Senna, and Delali for opening up and sharing your story and encouraging us. Thank you so much. Your story reminds us that life's greatest detours often become our greatest teachers. You've shown us that leadership is shaped not only by professional accomplishments, but also by the experiences that deepen our compassion, strengthen our character, and expand our capacity to serve others. But
Yeah.
before we close, I ask all of my guests one final question. Here, breaking through, we believe our greatest challenges can become our greatest opportunities for growth. So, Robert,
Yeah.
Bob K, what does
Yes.
breaking through mean to you today? This is our final question. And thank you, everyone, so much for joining us today.
Well, first and foremost, I want to say that um, there are many people that God has called and has given vision, and they are so scared of that vision. And I tell people, if God gives you a vision that doesn't scare you, or you have a vision that doesn't scare you, that does not scare you, it means that that's actually your own vision, right? So it's important because anytime he calls you, whether it's Moses on his own went and killed the Egyptian soldier, right? He killed him. But when God called him to go to Pharaoh, he said he doesn't know how to speak.
Mm.
So God, when he calls you to do something, that something must scare you. That's one of my biggest takeaways from this. And for you to realize that it is not up to you to do things. You know, when he wanted to create man, what did he say? He said, let us go. He didn't say, I'm going to create. So that means there is a level of collaboration and partnership that's going to be needed. Our culture, most people think they have to do everything by themselves. So I want to first and foremost thank my wife. She's been an inspiration to me because for me, by myself, I would just come home, eat banku and okra soup and watch TV. But I always tell her that every time I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, she and I go out and they say, what do you do, Dr. Kumapley? And so I'm the director of something and I'm sitting there like nothing, right? So I have to keep her within an arm's length. So God brought her into my life to inspire me, you know. So you know what, so without that motivation, because he knows how he created me, it doesn't take long for me to settle that I'm okay. But so long as she's motivated and moving, I need to move on. So it's important that we realize that the vision that really scares us, the vision that we think we are not resourced to implement, is actually the vision that you need to work. And at the right time, people will come, right? There may be people on this call that may say, hey, going forward, that girls' school in Lashibi, where these people are selling kebab, they don't even have the opportunity because they can't even afford a 10 CDs registration fee. I want to do, who knows? Who knows? And maybe that girl that was standing outside the gate looking in, it is her or her descendants that may discover the key for autism. Shame on us if that did not even happen. Shame on us if I didn't call her into the compound that day. And that because of 20 Ghana CD, as a nation and as a people, we still don't have that cure because we never gave that girl a chance. So I just want to encourage people on here that don't be scared of the vision. Embrace the vision, but ask him, how do you want me to do this? And develop a relationship with to hear that pesky voice, because that's a voice that will guide you. You know, he said, I am going, but the Holy Spirit will come. You know, I wasn't this deep into stuff, but it's through the conversation with him that I have gotten to this place. And I think there are many of you who are better fitted to hear from God than the reckless sinner that I am. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. If this conversation encouraged you, inspired, and challenged you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Breaking Through Immigrant Voices, and click the notification button. You know, Robert, once again, thank you very much. Thank you for everyone who joined us today. You matter. I sign off by saying you matter. You deserve to grow. You deserve to thrive. You deserve to work out the vision, the calling, the passion, turn that pain into purpose for greater good for humanity at large. And thank you, everyone, so much for joining today's conversation with Robert K. Kumapley. Really, really grateful for this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So there are a few more comments.
Okay.
God bless you and your wife from Ishmael Ernestino Poku said, God is good, Bob K. So,
So the
God
people
is
who
good.
call me Bob K, they know me very well.
They know you very well. So once again, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And we will see you again in August. And Bob, you are coming back with